Hi, I'm Linda Crandall, and I'd like to welcome Representative Rick Lewis, Republican candidate for House District 18. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
Tell us what you did for seniors and people with disabilities during your time in office.
I was a mayor in Silverton until 2017, when our former representative had to resign for health reasons. And so I was appointed in February of 2017, so I actually came into the first session late. And I was appointed to the Veterans and Emergency Preparedness Committee. So I didn't have an opportunity to do any bills in the first session related to senior and disability services, but on the Veterans Committee I had opportunities to work on some bills related to veterans who are senior citizens and also to disabled veterans. And so we put forth a lot of bills under the ballot measure 96 lottery funding, about $18 million. It was a bipartisan committee, so we were able to do quite a bit in that, in the last two sessions, in fact, to do some things for veterans around mental health, around homelessness, around general medical benefits and things like that. So that was the experience I had in the first two sessions.
Thank you. Tell us at least 3 of your positions that would encourage a senior or person with disabilities to re-elect you.
Okay, probably the most important one is bilateral hearing aids. And under the Medicaid program at the federal level, they leave it up to the states how to regulate how they're going to provide hearing aids to people that are Medicaid eligible. And so I have a bill in the next session already that's going to allow for 2 hearing aids instead of the current provision that only allows for 1. That's going to be really important for senior and disabled citizens. And also the work that we did on in the Veterans Committee, that is going to continue. I'm a very strong supporter of doing whatever we can for veterans, particularly those that are senior citizens and disabled, and we have quite a few in this state. And then the other thing I think is probably around homelessness and affordable housing. And I'll be working in the next session to try to come up with some ways to expand and improve in that area as well. So those are my priorities going into the next session.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon Project Independence is a program that keeps seniors and people with disabilities in their own home. And yet every year, proposed funding for OPI is significantly cut. What did you do to protect current funding for OPI? And if re-elected, how will you ensure continued funding for this cost-effective program?
OPI is a very, very effective and efficient program, and it keeps people in their homes much longer than they otherwise could stay. It provides in-home services for those people so they can stay there and enjoy an active life. People tend to do better, I think, when they're in their homes instead of being put in a facility somewhere or in an assisted living facility if they can be around friends and family and continue their lifestyle. The governor's recommended budget, she has to do that. The governor has to do that at the start of every legislative session, the biennium, I should say. And so she cut that back from 27 million to 5 million, which was the absolute minimum that the federal government would allow to continue to provide federal funding. We were able as a legislature to restore that back to 27.1 in the last session. It'll be my priority to make sure we keep that funding there. It's a very important program.
I'm so glad to hear that. What would you do on a state level so that seniors and people with disabilities no longer face a lack of accessible and affordable housing?
I think in the next session, and probably the next 2 sessions, affordable housing is going to be right at the top of the list of priorities. We talk about it all the time. I think that I have a couple of ideas. One idea is to incentivize cities and developers so that they can build housing at a less expensive cost, and then cities would still get their assisted development charges, get reimbursed by the state for that, so that we can do more around affordable housing for seniors in particular. My interest is in affordable housing, but it's mostly in affordable housing for seniors and disabled. And I worked on some of that when I was the mayor in Silverton. We didn't get very far before I went to the legislature. But I think it's going to be important. It's going to be a priority for me to make sure that we can do something to help in that regard.
Thank you. How would you prioritize state funding, including funding that is matched with federal funds, for services to an increasing senior and people with disabilities population?
The unfortunate thing about the state right now is that we've seen a pretty significant increase in revenue in this current biennium, but we have some things that are causing us some angst. One of those is PERS, and the other one is the deficit that we're going to be facing going into the next biennium on health care. And so I think we need to quit kicking that PERS can down the road. We've got to fix it. And then as far as my personal priorities, I voted for the transportation bill in the last session primarily because it provides additional millions of dollars in additional funding for busing and to get people that are in those rural areas of the state to be able to access the services they need if they don't drive. I'll be working on that, and I'll keep affordable housing as a priority. I'll keep the project independence as a priority, and I think amongst those three things, I think we can accomplish a lot.
I agree. Thank you so much for being here and for your insight.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
This is Representative Rick Lewis, Republican candidate for House District 18.